Well, you're welcome to another Sunday Kickback with Brain Kerr here alongside me, Stephen Doyle. After watching Manchester United drop more points at home against Crystal Palace, who were 2-0 winners, 2 goals coming from Mateta. And Brian, we were both very impressed by the Crystal Palace performance from back to front. And you were saying as well during the commentary you felt that they deserved the 3 points.
Yeah, I think so overall in the game. They were the better organised team. They had a very good shape about them. They had a clear pattern of play. They knew exactly what to do when they got the ball. They were defending well when they needed to. They got numbers behind the ball and all that. But when they regained possession, they invariably found the yellow shirt with it and counter-attacked well. And I thought made good chances in the game. I didn't see the possession stats. I'm sure Manchester United were probably up around 65% mark. But overall, I thought Palace were the better team and deserved to win the game.
When you look at Diallo in that match point, it was clear Palace had him marked out. Don't let him get past you. There was 2 yellow shirts going out to Diallo every time the ball went to him. So you think then, well, where's the space? Maybe Garnacho is the man who wasn't being watched as closely, but he just hasn't been playing well really this season, has he?
No, well, certainly, he's been up and down. A lot of talk about him being sold because there'd be 100% profit on him because he's considered one that's come through their setup, and that they need to realign the finances in relation to buying any players they're going to buy. So they, obviously, the manager wasn't too happy with him, but now I saw his more recent statement is that Garnacho has learned what he wants from him, rather than Garnacho playing as the wild player where he was so effective when he got into the team last season under Ten Hag. He's had to adapt to playing as one of the number 10s or as a wing back. Obviously that hasn't worked out. So they were trying to get it to Garnacho a lot, I thought, and he was reasonably threatening, I would have said, in the first 25 minutes of the game. But eventually, between Muniz and Richards on that side for Palace, the right side, the centre back, and the right wing back, they eventually got to grips with it. And the same on the other side. You said that there was always 2 men out. It was more there was 2 men on him when he came inside with the ball, not out at the touchline initially, but when he started to advance towards the box, the left-sided centre back for Palace, or the right side of centre back went out to help the wing back, went straight out and waited for the support from the wing back coming back inside to give him cover, and they dealt with it well. And then the other 2 centre backs who were free were able to deal with what was arriving into the box, which from Manchester United's point of view seemed to be Diallo or Mazraoui. Mainu was kind of a late arrival. He was playing as a kind of a dropped off 9. So, I don't think the shape worked or the personnel worked in the positions they played in today for Manchester United. And there was a lot of disenchantment at the end of the game in the stadium today, Stephen. There wasn't normally Manchester United crowd are very, very supportive of the team, irrespective of the result. But there was a lot of movement out of the ground once Palace got the second goal, and then at the end there was a lot of, I would say, boos and not a heartfelt support for the team or the manager. I might add, it seems to be an element of lack of patience, and I wonder, is there a little bit of annoyance about what's happened about Rashford? I mean, why Manchester United supporters would be disappointed with his performances. I would have thought they always saw him as one of their own, and a decent lad who had good social conscience about him, and did some tremendous stuff for United, scored some great goals on big nights for them in Europe, and now they're getting him out the door. They seem to be anxious to get him out the door and to blame him on setting a trend for other players and so on. I suppose the excuse though that Amorim has given is that, well, he hasn't said it directly, but what we're led to believe from his comments is that Marcus Rashford isn't pulling his weight, that he's not training as hard as his teammates, and that he isn't coming up to a certain standard that Amorim is trying to set in the club. Now that's fair enough. Like every squad has to have its standards, and the players have to meet that every week in, week out. Surely it's incumbent then on the manager to get the player to reach those standards, rather than just going, well, he's not playing as good as I want to play, so out he goes. Yeah, it's like I don't think Marcus Rashford would have wanted to leave Manchester United. I think that's his team, that's his club.
He's also making about 350 grand a week as well.
Yeah, he's on massive wages, but he earned that contract on the basis of the 30 goals he scored a season and a half ago. He scored 30 goals, and Manchester United wanted to make him one of the best paid players they have, probably the best paid player. Is he? Would he be best paid? He might be up there, that's for sure. So they made the call. He didn't demand the figures. I'm sure he was happy to get the money. But I don't think that Amorim has handled it well. I think in terms of, that was the final insult a couple of weeks ago when he said that he'd rather pick a 63-year-old goalkeeping coach than someone that wasn't doing enough for the team.
How would that make the player feel?
I'm sure the player said, I've had it here, I've no chance here. And I'm sure he's trying, Rashford, I'm sure he's trying to satisfy the manager and the standards he wants. But it looks like, to me, it looks a little bit peculiar that they've been so anxious to criticise him, and that fact that he's such a high earner. It looks like a combination of that the club are nearly saying, look, it'd be no harm if you could get him off the wage bill for us as well. Seeing as he's not doing so well for us, it would open up a bit of the budget for us to get a player or two that you'd like. It's kind of sad, I think, but look, he might go on and do what Sancho did when he went off to Dortmund and show that he can play and come back again, whether it's Manchester United or somewhere else, or whether Villa pay the money to keep him. We'll see how it goes. But today, I'm looking at them saying, surely Marcus Rashford, at kind of 90% of his best, would be better than how the forward players played today for them. And the last match we covered against Brighton, and the match against Fulham last week when they only had one shot on target. I'm sure Marcus Rashford would have made a contribution.
Just to ask you finally on United and Brian, because okay, they're home to Leicester City in the Cup next. You would imagine they should be able to win that game. After that, away to Tottenham, away to Everton, home against Ipswich, and then home against Arsenal. That's 3 out of those fixtures look very, very difficult for this United team. And I just wonder, in every single game we watch United play, it just seems like there's experimentation going on. There's a different player being tried in a different position. And when I look at one of those teams, Everton, David Moyes has gone in there and immediately he's getting a tune out of what everybody thought was a really bad Everton squad that was in danger of going down. Does this mean that Ruben Amorim, who's just gone 40 years of age, is too inexperienced to try and turn around this absolute oil tanker of a football club and try and turn their fortunes?
I did caution a little bit of don't jump the gun too soon for everyone to say this is definitely the man, because when they signed the other managers, the very good managers, or managers who have won lots and lots of trophies in the past, who they thought were going to be the one, and now they signed a fella who talks a great game, his English is very good, who seems very clear in his communication. But, he's coming into the Premier League that he hasn't worked in before. He's been successful in the Portuguese League, where there's basically 3 teams who are going to win the trophies between them. That's Sporting Lisbon and Benfica and Porto. And if you got one of the 3 of them, you have a fair chance. Whereas he hasn't been in a league where there's maybe 10 teams or 6 teams that might win the league or might win the cup or whatever, League Cup. So to me, he was unproven to a degree. So I think the judgment is out, but there's more question marks about him now. But he's got to be given time and given some time to get the players he wants. He's inherited a lot of the players that played in the Dutch league from Ten Hag, but that experimentation is going on consistently, as you say. I think they're now at the stage where they've got to win the Leicester match and concentrate in the cup competitions, the FA Cup and the Europa League, where they've advanced to the knockout stages along with Spurs. They don't have to play those extra matches. The manager's saying he's delighted because give him extra time to work with the team on the pitch. Manchester United supporters want to see a little bit of results of that work on the training pitch, of making a difference, of a little bit more consistency about selection, consistency about the positioning of the players, and performance levels from the players. And, again, I think one of the things I didn't like was that he didn't think that the players were in the condition they should be in. I don't like hearing that from a manager. I like to hear what I heard from David Moyes yesterday, saying Sean Dyche left me a very honest, good group of players who worked terrible hard for the club. He wasn't having a go with Sean Dyche in any way. He was he's been, I suppose, polite and respectful to the previous manager, rather than saying they weren't in great condition. Some of the players were playing out of position. He should have picked other players. You know, he's just gone in, done the job. He's got a few results, and he said it's great. Everything I've been asking from the players, I've got from them, and suddenly we've scored a few goals. He hasn't been saying it's down to me. He's saying it's down to the players. I think Amorim needs a little bit of humility about that as well. But he's a bit to do. He certainly has a bit to do.
What do you say about Crystal Palace? Just to end on them briefly, Brian, before I ask you about one of the Irish players. Like, you look at the fixtures they've got coming up. They got Everton at home, Fulham away, Aston. Like, they just seem to be one of those eternal mid-table teams. But I'm looking at their next cup match away to Doncaster Rovers. They'll fancy that. Like, is that maybe what Crystal Palace should be doing, focusing on a cup run and maybe getting a final, even winning the FA Cup?
Of course, but you know, I think Crystal Palace have been in a position for many years where their target was to try and get the 40 points. The old standard for staying in the league. It's been a bit less required in the last few seasons, but for them, the achievement of staying in the league and becoming a regular, off the resources they have and relatively small stadium that they have, and the income from that is quite limited because there's not fantastic hospitality rooms and all that money that can be generated on match day. Their match day revenue, I think, is quite limited compared to some of the clubs with bigger grounds, bigger stadiums and more modern stadiums. So they have to cut the cloth to suit. They also are kind of a selling club when they have technically good players. They can't hold them. So yeah, I think you're right, but I think the first object for Crystal Palace had to be staying in the league. And the poor start of the season, the manager was under fair bit of pressure in the first 10 games or so. Took them a long time to get a win. But now they're creeping along very nicely. 3 away wins in a row, 16 points since December away from home. Good, more settled look about the squad. Mateta in great form. Solid looking at the back defensively. You know, I think their supporters would love them to have a cup run, but I think they'd be delighted about the fact that they've crept away from the bottom of the table and they're in it. They're almost getting towards, what's that, points wise? They're up around the 29 mark, I think.
30 now.
So 30. That, you know, they're getting towards that steady position. If 40 was the old safety line, they only need 10 more points out of the remaining games this season. They should be well capable of that in the way they're playing. I'd say their supporters that travelled here today to Manchester United, they would have been delirious going home with that results today, on top of the last 2 away wins as well.
Just to finish then, Brian, on Adam Idah, just want to get your views on Adam Idah, because look, he's one of those players where he's just maybe failed to get that. I know he had his injuries at Norwich City and that didn't really help his progression. He's still only 23, so he's quite young. We do see sometimes with strikers, they can develop maybe at 24, 25, 26 years of age into a fully blown top player. He got 2 goals against Aston Villa. He's got 1 today against Motherwell. As it stands, Celtic leading by 2-1 as we speak right now. And what's this going to do for his confidence, and would you be confident that he can kick off from here? Because to score twice in the Champions League away to Aston Villa, who kept all clean sheets in that tournament this season so far, that was an incredible feat.
Well, I think the first goal against Villa was a great goal because he had to adjust the cross coming in. John McGinn got a half block and it went up in a big loop, and he adjusted his body really well to control the finish and smack it into the net. The second goal was just a poacher's finish in around the back at the far post, put it into the net. Confidence-wise, major boost for him. The other thing was that Kyogo has left the building, left the club. Kyogo's gone. So he's looking at that going, hey, it doesn't look like there's anyone else. I'm in now, rather than being in out or out more than in, and in the occasional time under pressure to score because Kyogo scored and now I'm in. Now that should guarantee him a starting position in the most important games in the next few weeks. What he's got to do is to produce that goal scoring form consistently. He's also, for me, got to work harder in the game to anticipate things a bit quicker, to arrive to be available when as the out ball, when defenders have the ball, they're looking what's on, midfield pass might be on, I might just have to sling it down in the gully, in the channel. Can you get there quicker? Can you use that big body he has, good strength he has, to get there sharper across the defender and get possession, get a free kick and get his team up there? Secondly, he needs to improve his touch when the ball's played up to him. Keep it in. Don't let it off you. No matter where it's hit from and what angle it comes at, can you get your body across it, hold off the defender, get control, again, get a free kick or keep possession and make sure your touch is good. That sort of stuff I think he can improve on. But if he's scoring goals, his confidence will surge. The supporters will be more, I suppose, behind him. He's replacing Kyogo, who's been a star man for Celtic. He scored big goals against Rangers, particularly so frequently. And that's the task for him, to do that, to gain the confidence of the supporters. That's money well spent. It was a fairly big outlay for Celtic to buy him from Norwich, and he's got a producer on a regular basis now. They've signed Jota, who'll play on the wing. He's not a centre forward. So the competition, you know, it gives Johnny Kenny maybe is going to get a go. We'll see what happens in the transfer window. Will they sign another player? But Johnny Kenny might be in the running now to be his partner in the front position, which again is good for Irish football if that happens.
Certainly is. Hopefully it does go well for Adam Idah right till the end of the season. Brian, fair to say at Old Trafford we obtained a few learnings from the match, and we might get a few more next week. Brian Kerr, thanks a million.